What's up, everybody? We're here with my cousin Jesse K.
What?
Whitney Miller in the studio as well, hanging, profiling.
It's a family of
Creeping. It's a family affair today. So for everybody out there listening, Jesse K is someone who I've been hanging with since we were little.
like really small.
Little.
Like from the womb to the tomb. That's the definition
That's
of
it.
family right there.
That's it.
Even it's generational. Like I got pictures of our parents battling on the chessboard at 12 years old out in Providence, Rhode Island, like on some first generation American shit.
Yeah, man. It goes deep. It goes deep from basketball games out in the back, tennis matches.
Ooh.
The tennis matches they've gotten a lot closer in the years since the young days.
Well, you've got the
Your
secret
game's improved.
weapons.
I do have the secret weapon.
So
I have my mother's side, that lineage, the Wimbledon lineage.
Oh my God. And
to
then
help me out.
growing up with courts in your backyard.
That didn't hurt either.
Like, and then you would make me like in the early days play with no shoes on because your feet are just like on another level of tough compared to like my little New York, Brooklyn dogs. Like those little guys couldn't handle the rough terrain of Malibu in the early days, and then Austin. You would
the
just
rough terrain of Malibu.
I mean,
everybody just threw up in their mouth a little bit when you said that.
Listen, it's rocky out there. There's rocks and cliffs and spy tech technology, and it was just like we saw some
That's
things.
True. We saw some things.
My feet, like after the first 2-3 days, would just be so bloody, and you'd just be running up and down treadmills. It would be like you had a treadmill that you could ski on.
Yeah.
It was like a rug that it was like meant to train you for skiing, and like trampoline rooms, and then we'd play tennis with no. And I tried to be cool, like I thought I was hard body. Playing tennis with no shoes on would just like rip my little dogs up. But my favorite tennis battle was when we played with one ball in the rain.
Yeah, it was
out
like,
of those Publix courts.
And it was a flat ball.
Like
too.
we just had
one flat ball in the rain.
These obscure public courts. I don't even know what city we were in.
I think it was Austin, right?
Like, why were we not at the spot?
I don't think we had a spot yet. I think it was like I was still in college.
Just
like parents didn't have
wet
a spot.
ball, and we were just savage. It was just like only one, and we played like a hard set.
Yeah,
Like
if you missed the first serve, you had to collect the ball.
It was just such a mental game, and it was a battle. But you've always got my number when it comes to that. It's like the bar just is there, and like you've got the tools and the athleticism, and right now you're crowned number one in the family. I mean, David might dispute it.
Yeah, my uncle Dave, who's now 66 or something like that.
But in good shape.
But he still got game.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Still
a
got game.
crafty vet with the skills to match.
The thing is, I don't think I ever like legit beat my mom. I think she just finally like aged out. I think like I don't know if like there was ever that moment where like I got you, mom. Like I really beat you.
Oh.
I think it was just kind of like she just stopped playing.
I mean,
before,
she was a semi-finalist in Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Like that, you shouldn't be able to beat her.
I know. I
Like,
always thought I could though, but she would get in my head. She knew how to shit talk me so well. She would compliment my backhand.
I mean,
that was the game. She'd like, "Oh, your backhand looks amazing," and then crushed me.
oh, it's such a mental sport. I call it like the thinking man's boxing, or it's a cross reference between chess and boxing. I love tennis because it's such a mental sport. It's so much of it is strategy and execution than it is even athleticism. But then you get on the court and you're just a freaking animal. A gorilla compared to me. The joke when we were growing up was I was dating DeVito, you were Arnold Schwarzenegger. We were twins because like, and the joke is also that you got the good genes. Probably not our Jewish lineage to Providence, Rhode Island.
But you always had the fucking hustle though. You had the hustle. Still got the hustle.
It's a beautiful thing. That's part of the perks of being a Brooklyn New Yorker coming out of this place. I'm lucky enough to find a career that matches my passion, matches my personality, matches the speed that I move in. And absolutely, I'm like that place where New York rewards the hustler.
Yeah.
You've been here a couple of days. You can kind of get that feel, that energy when you touch down. This is a town that loves that.
It's where the
that
hustler is
it.
real too. Like there's the LA hustler, which is kind of slimy, and then there's like the Miami hustler, which is even more weird, and but then the New York hustler is just real. It's like a real thing here.
Yeah, we'll get you in the club, but we'll also get you the best cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I remember us. It wasn't just obviously we did all the things from fucking skiing to riding around being little punks to doing everything, but it was always talking about where we were going to go. I mean, and we're kind of backing it up. Like all of those dreams that we had when we were younger about what we were going to do, it's kind of happening now.
I love that. It's a lot about setting an intention. We were early on very driven, and we were both, crafty deal makers and hustlers and deep people with, kind of a lot of drive and a lot of potential. I mean, I think I saw like some old holiday card that you gave me, like, I don't know, 10 years ago that was like, or 7 years ago, that's like, we haven't gotten there yet, but we're sure enjoying the ride and the future looks bright.
Yeah, that might have been my before my 30th or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was like we're still striving,
no
right?
doubt.
And
I feel like neither one of us feel like we've reached our potential, like what's possible.
And the beautiful thing is, I feel like I want to do this forever. Like, I want to be 75 in the office, still hustling deals, maybe not as like, day to day or concerned about all the ins and outs, but definitely I want to still be in the game. I saw Jack Welch speak after you at the Madison Square Garden event on Saturday. Mm-hmm. He is just so knowledgeable at 85. I just wish I still have his vigor and his relevance, and his insights. He still wants it. And like, I still hope that forever, we're doing this. We're doing this as long as we're doing this. Maybe on different levels, on different playing fields, in different spheres, but the hustle stays inside of you, you know?
It just shifts. For me, I feel it shifting towards other different ways to go about it. I think for me, I stressed way too much the whole way up. You know what I mean? I like worried about the future, worried about every little thing, like tortured myself the whole way. And that's the only thing I would change. I wouldn't change any actual event. I wouldn't change any way that things happen. Everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, I'm grateful for. The only thing that I would have changed is just enjoying the whole way a little bit more.
But don't you think that little neuroticness inside of you, and I do think it's kind of hereditary to some extent, doesn't that help you become the man that you are? Like, if you were talking to your college self, you would say, don't stress it, it's all going to work out. But the truth of the matter is, how you got here is because you pushed yourself, because you put that level of tension in. To stress actually helped build you to this place. And how could you not have stress? It's natural, especially when you're playing high-stakes games.
Yeah.
To get yourself prepared to be where you are now, you had to deal with levels of stress so that you can be able to maneuver the stress even better now. And it's not like the stress stops. The stakes only go up. It's just you've got now mechanisms to deal with it because of all the work that you did, or suffering that you did on the come up.
Maybe. I mean, my mom always said that that's the difference between a cow and a racehorse, right? Like, you watch a cow out in the field, it's just chewing its cud, super chill, doesn't get hype. A racehorse, before it goes in the gate, it's running sideways, it's doing little bucks, it's snorting, it's frothing at the fucking mouth, and then when it's time to race, it goes. Like, there's always going to be that anticipation and preparation for a major sprint.
Yeah.
But I think there's the deleterious side of the stress, which is just, it's almost paralyzing. It's me at home, doubting myself, like, oh man, I'm never going to get there. What am I doing? And I think that's the part that I would have just wished I would have had a little more faith. And that's what I think about now. It's just, even as the game gets more complex and more pieces on the chessboard are developed and different things come out of the blue, things, allies that you thought were there are no longer there on the board anymore and shit's going on. Just having that little bit of faith, like, all right, the game is hella complex, but I know how to play the game and it's going to work out one way or another.
Well, that's called age and wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Because you've always had the faith. It's not that you might go into
I lost
dark
it.
spots,
Yeah, I lose it for a little while.
But that's natural in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you've got the mechanisms. You know what gets you back as close to that flow as possible so that you can bounce back. Because what they keep saying is life isn't about how you get knocked down. It's about how you get up. Mm-hmm. And you're always going to be knocked down. And it's not like that changes. Maybe right now you've got the ability to have them. You've built the tools and you've seen enough life to figure out how to bounce back from certain things. But 10 years from now, you're going to say, if I only did this and that. Because that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
It's good and bad. But at the end of the day, like Jerry Seinfeld says, it always ends up even.
You've always seemed to have that been able to access that positive energy well. Like for me, I'm more up and down. I'm less consistent than you. But like one of the reasons I think everybody loves hanging out with you is it's you're always in that kind of positive energy mindset space. I mean, a few times I've seen you crash, but it's really just like when the battery is just at pure dead, and you just need to jumpstart the car. It's just,
let's not tell all those stories. You've seen me, look, South by 8 days out in South by can really, or 11 days. By the end of that South by run in Austin, you can turn into like a robot almost. There's just no level of finesse. And at the end of the day, so much of my business is based on my passions and my relationships and my people skills that if you can't muster up that charisma and that heart, it's hard to do it. And you've always been able to pick me up like halfway through the South by trip. And, I feed off of energy, right? Yeah. I bounce off of other people's gifts that I can see is amazing and that the world needs to kind of celebrate. Mm-hmm. So, how I get my energy, there's definitely a method to the madness, but also a lot of it is just like super excited about the potential and super excited about like what's in front of us. And, it can be a gift and a curse too. You want to be present. You want to be grounded. You want to be really in that zone versus like too excitable. Mm-hmm. Like I'm working on now trying to take the energy and make it a little bit less frenetic. Right. And a little bit more focused on the goals at hand.
Like the difference between a laser and a lantern, right?
Yeah.
Like a lantern is just casting light and expelling energy in this broad spectrum, lighting everything up around it. But a laser focuses that beam and it becomes a lot more powerful. It can cut. You can see it for miles. I think about that too. And I think that's also one of the things when I have so many interests, so many different things that I love to do, I can get distracted and push a little bit of energy into 20 things. Whereas when I really, find myself doing my best work, it's when I hone that down. Like with this recent book that I've been working on, where I'll just take a month and just kill everything else except the absolutely essential and just lock myself in and write and think and research and focus. Like that produces the greatest works that I can produce.
That's it, right? And so if you focus, what makes you find your inner glow. And that's where you focus on. And I can't wait to read this book. I can't wait for the world to read this book because every time I'm around you, I'm like a sponge, taking in knowledge about how to be your optimal best self, and like such an inspiration, to so many people. But being your cousin and being like really having been known you my whole life and being this close, being able to learn and have all of this information, you are a wealth. And you're not just like, you're in the trenches. You're like putting this like poison in your system live on Facebook. I thought you were gonna die, like some of these things
from the frog poison.
Why? Why? Because you were in the trenches. You need to, in order to be able to say what's.
For people who don't know that story, I tried out this. In quotations, medicine called Cambo, which is basically they stretch this frog that I think is wild in Suriname. They stretch it out and they kind of torture it and agitate it until it releases some of its toxins. And then they harvest the toxins. They don't kill the frog, but they annoy the hell out of it. And then they harvest the toxins from an angry frog. And then they burn a hole in your skin. They burn 11 holes with a blazing hot stick, like a thick, like a chopstick that's on fire, and they put holes into your arm, and then they smear the poison resin into your arm. And I went into full anaphylactic shock. My throat almost closed completely shut. My face swelled up. My lips were like balloons. My face was swole up.
And
I did this willingly. Yeah.
You did this live on Facebook. Willingly. We almost watched you die. It was horrible.
And then I... So at that point, we had the animal expert, Donald Schultz, and he was like eyeing me to see if I needed a field tracheotomy because my throat was going to completely shut down because I had an allergic reaction to the frog. Everybody has a reaction. It's poison. And then for like 3 weeks, I was sick. So yeah, I've tried some shit that didn't work.
You're in the trenches knowing what the best thing is for your body, how to own the day, right? That's the book. That's the vision. That's the life mission to some extent. So being able to hear it in and out, like so much of who I am as a, optimal performer in terms of as a corporate New York business guy comes from the lessons that I've learned, the influence that you've imparted, the knowledge that you've shared to be able to maneuver and figure out what the right optimal opportunity or state is for performance.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a part of who I am, but I also miss it also takes me off in these long tangents and weird, and it ends up being valuable. But to be able to steadily beat the drum, like I've seen you beat it. I mean, you were hustling all the way from college. Weren't you running like a betting operation in your university and cashing in, and like from there to then the music biz, and then I see you out and you're out with Wale and you're out just making things happen constantly. Like, how many nights a week are you out?
I love it so much. It's like being in the music business all day long. You're talking about the universal language, the common denominator. Like, people might not like fashion, people might not like sports, but there's nobody that you can't connect to when it comes to music. So all day long, I get to talk about music and put together opportunities for musicians and brands and help them figure out how to build their musical identity. And then the perks are that you get to go to awesome concerts. So, I could probably be out 6 nights a week at mind-blowing things, everything around the world, from the festival seasons to all the great concerts going on to all the great events promoting the musicians and the artists. It's just, I love it. So why would I not go out? And it's so fun to be in the mix, and especially as you've built levels of credibility and establishment, the players and how to maneuver the kind of through the room, it becomes that much better. And like, I'm at this point, I feel like every year is the best year of my life.
Right.
So how could you not feel good? Yeah, when I was in high school, I was the president of my high school. My start in the music business was in a Puff Daddy music video. I was throwing all the parties for every high school and around. It was great. But like, college got even better. And then the real world is when you really start to see it count. So now at 38 years old, I'm feeling like this is like the most exciting time ever for my industry and for my passion of this industry. And I honestly feel like it could keep going and going and going. I've said it. I want to be 55 and telling you got to see this new artist, or we got to go out to this place. It's the greatest concert venue in the world, same outfit. I just want to be in a full tracksuit, just like rolling around the world with the people I love, doing the things I love.
How do you manage all of your contacts and friends? Do you have like a system, or is it, how do you keep these connections and these contacts fresh? I mean, obviously there's the family where we can go a couple months without seeing each other and come right back and there's not a missed beat. But do you consciously keep in touch with people? Do you have like a way that you organize that?
There's great techniques to doing it, meta tagging data. My friend Ryan Leslie, who I'm on the board of his company Superphone, is showing me how he keeps everybody meta tagged in text, because text keeps you top of mind. There's something to top of mind kind of awareness. Mm-hmm. So I do a newsletter that goes out every Tuesday. It reaches 20,000 or so folks. It's a really interesting set of things you need to know about in music and tech. I put my spin on it each week. And so I push that out into the world to my contacts, basically everybody I come across. And it's starting to get more and more traction. And then people come back, and at least it puts me top of mind. And if people have something to say, I can be more of a counterpuncher or a responder than an outreacher. But how do you stay in touch? It's tough. You know how it is. It's like you try and prioritize your girlfriend, it's even your best friends. It becomes like I'm more of a reacher-outer when I want to do something or something comes to mind. I think kind of the best way to do it is stay top of mind and then gravitate towards the energy that gravitates towards you. Yeah. So Facebook is a great thing. If you post and people are responding, it can spawn conversations that then you can figure out like how to connect with people. But how much we love each other, how deep our ties go, how deep our relationship is. And I see you at South by, right? Because I'm in Austin.
Right. Or when I'm in New York.
Right. It's not like we are communicating on a regular basis. It's hard, especially with, they say what Pavlov's law is 150 people. Yeah. That's it.
Dunbar's law.
Dunbar's is 150
Pavlov
people.
was the salivating dogs.
Really?
Yeah. Pavlov's response was where you'd ring a dinner bell before he served the dogs the food. And then after a while, he could just ring the dinner bell and the dogs would salivate without the food.
Jeez.
I
don't know
conditioning.
Wow.
Okay. The Dunbar number is 150. Though.
Dunbar's 150. So that's the maximum that we can keep attention for or connected to on a regular basis. And I even say it's less, right? Like when you look at it's hard to keep track of it all. I wish I was so meticulous. I've seen systems that are where like Ryan's chatbot will text the 100 most important people in his life twice a week with just a check-in. And then all of a sudden, he's got dialogue, and he can manage the dialogue with his 150 most important people and his 50,000 connections in his phone. And he's got everything meta-tagged. Wow. Every time he speaks, he can, he takes the time to put the detail into each contact. It's a lot. And I've had that when I was like really out there reaching to promoters and routing tours. You could do it on your business side, but on a personal side, really the most important thing is like making sure that I meditate twice a day.
Yeah, keeping yourself grounded, keeping the thoughts from getting too crazy in your head.
You stay focused inside, and then the rest of it you kind of flow with, and you set intentions, and then you find people along the way that mean the most to you on basic certain attention or certain intentions, and that's how you connect to them.
Yeah. What about pitching? Because you're someone who will cold pitch anybody. You've probably been pitched 1,000 times. Like, there's a lot of people who have ideas here, but just don't have the understanding or maybe the passion or the willingness to risk getting completely rejected, like completely shut down. Like, what would you say to people who have an idea and they want to get something going, they want to pitch somebody, they want to talk to them?
The beautiful thing about what I do now is I feel like with music and with entertainment and being so close to culture, I can add value to any product, to any company, to any person's life. It's a universal bond, and it's a value add because it can bring attention and awareness and connect you more to your consumer. What I would say is to anybody with an idea, figure out the value add for who you want to pitch it to, and then connect with them with, hey, here's what's in it for you. And, then worry about what's coming back to them first. But if you're coming at it with a handout, it becomes like it alters the conversation. If you're coming at it with here's what I can do for the world, here's what I can do for you, here's the clear proposition, it becomes a lot easier to digest to start. And then you can start to figure out what the collaboration is, and it gets the wheels turning.
Right. I had when we were at that Synergy Global thing, there's a 16-year-old kid who's like clearly just trying to hustle his ass off.
Rohan.
Right? Yeah.
Holy cow. He's already been on email. He's introduced me to people producing things in Harvard. Like that guy, and he's somehow he's in backstage at everywhere with no band.
Right. He just hustles his way in. But I was thinking about it. I was talking to John Beer about it, and I was saying, he kind of came at me and just kind of gave his resume and told me about all the things he was doing. And that's cool. And I respect his kind of courage to just go up and start the conversation. But he was backstage. If he would have taken a photo of me as I was walking out onto the stage and then had that, and that's something that I could use and post on Instagram or whatever, he can be like, hey man, I took this photo of you. If you want to use it, I'll send it to you.
Smart.
And then all of a sudden, he's opening the conversation with something valuable to me, something actually valuable to me.
It's true. It's a little bit of a creepy technique, right? Like there's rules to what you can and can't post. There's rules to the access, right? Like if you're backstage in, somebody's dressing room and you take a picture, you're with Richard Branson in his green room, and you decide that you're going to snap a picture of him because you think it's going to be cool for his social media. Like it's a violation of trust. Like there's rules to the access.
Yeah, I suppose the specifics don't really matter, but I think the point is there's other circumstances. You could have taken it from the front of the stage. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like a place where you're at least thinking all right, what would be valuable to Aubrey, rather than me hoping that Aubrey wants to do something for me and I'm going to tell him about me and then he'll do something for me. What's something that I could do that might actually have value? And I think that's an important way for me that people want to start a conversation. And they'll do weird things like I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Well, the disproportionate amount of effort that I would give to sit there and talk to them and let them, pick my brain for 30 minutes versus the $4 cup of coffee is way out of line, right?
I agree.
So but starting the conversation with some kind of give first, genuinely, and if it's just that, just start making deposits. That I think is the key.
I fully agree with the pay it forward mentality for the young entrepreneurs, the hustlers coming up, and anybody in general. If you can approach life what can I give to this scenario? And it might just be as simple as energy, then it it just feels better when you're receiving and when you're maneuvering through and when you're making asks and all of that. So I think that especially I'm more easy to listen to somebody when they're coming at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But, that's a good way to approach things if you're an up-and-comer or got a product or a proposition.
One of the things that you naturally give is your energy. Like you bring the energy up in the room.
Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be laughter. There's going to be positive energy. It's something that is naturally drawing people to you. And that it can be that. It can be something funny. It can be positive energy. But when you have that kind of I want something from you energy, it takes. It sucks. And for you, you're like a sun. Like you're just pushing out a lot of energy. So that in and of itself is a value proposition.
Absolutely. And then beyond that, like again, I fully believe we've had this conversation years ago and what was the value add to the world and what are we bringing? At this point, being in music my whole professional career, really knowing that the music space is what I do and what I want to do forever, I know that I can bring value to any situation. I could help anybody connect to their consumer, to their fans, to their family, to anybody on a personal level or on a professional level through utilizing music marketing. And so it's just a great space to be in because there's nobody I can't help.
Right.
It just becomes a little overwhelming because, again, like the lantern versus the laser, you can't just be illuminating and not if you want to forge forward.
Right.
So like big principle of mine is work my to-do list and not my inbox because what's coming into me can be very overwhelming. But I read everything and I see everything, or me and my team do, but going out to what my 10 things I want to achieve today is what I want to focus on, not all of the different asks, requests, and emails coming in. That's how you get forward each day and move the agenda forward.
I have a practice that I put in my book that I borrowed from partly some of my own work and partly from talking to another CEO, Josh Bazzoni, who has this idea that you can really only focus on 3 things at once.
Yeah, Sonny only uses 3 fingers.
Yeah. And it's this idea that if you have your 3 main objectives and those objectives fit into your mission, like what your overall mission is, then you can really hone in what it is. And so the to-do list can be longer. Like one of your objectives could be handle all of the errands, and it can have little subtasks. But for me, on one page in the Moleskine, I'll write my mission at the top of the page and I'll just rewrite it. It's roughly the same thing always, but whatever words kind of come to that. And then the 3 objectives of the day. And when I do that, I feel very clear and focused about what I got to do. There's 3 things I can think of. I can keep them in my mind and then handle the subtasks as necessary.
It's so great if you want to forge forward.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could feel like you're in a treadmill and you're just kind of running in every direction, but you're not getting forward.
And it can be paralyzing when there's too many things to do. You get choice paralysis. Like, what should I do? Nothing. Jerk off. Like you can get in this trap where
you don't know where to start even. Right. It's overwhelming. So what's the goal right now?
I mean, the goal right now is this book is in line edits.
Good.
So I got to go home after this. I got to finish the line edits and make sure that every word is in the right place. I mean, this is the fine-tooth comb at this point.
I am so excited
and I'm
for
thinking
this.
about, reading the book. So now I'm going through and actually vocalizing myself because I'm actually going to be in a studio reading.
Oh, yeah.
And vocalizing all right, is this exactly my voice? Is this exactly how I want to say it? Are the places where I put, the curse words the right places? Or is it going to be abrasive? Is this going to sound right when it comes out of my mouth and I'm reading this for 10 hours?
It's so thoughtful. And it's this is going to be one of your life's work, right? This is going to be left to the world forever. You're not going to be able to change this. It's not like you can revise it and you can edit it, but once that's out there.
That's the thing about a book. It's so different than anything. It's I guess you could do a revised and updated version, but the book is basically the book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it sets this foundational piece. It's also what's exciting. It feels like, it'll capture all of my knowledge about the human body and performance to date. And it really, even writing it, has expanded it dramatically.
I bet.
Just the understanding and just getting back to the research and things that you hear that that aren't really true. Like I pick up from some place, don't have cold beverages while you eat, and it'd be well, is that accurate or is that not accurate?
Yeah.
Like what is the truth around this or not? And then you start to get and hone in to like the absolute, what the clinical research says, and like what's myth, what's reality, and where it all kind of falls.
And you've been doing this research for your whole life.
Yeah.
Like this is like and putting it in a book form sharpens your steel even more. All of your talking points probably feel crisp. Everything is going to be super organized. You've got everything here. This is your first real book, right?
Yeah.
This is your life's work
I
to
did
date.
that online course, but that was like a failed attempt at a book, really. It's great as a course, 30,000 words, but this book's 100,000 words.
And you cherry picked the creme de la creme to fitting the goal. So goal number 1, the book. You got to get this done. You got to finish it. You got to get all the attributes and all the elements of it in place so that it can reach as many people and impact as many people as possible.
Yeah. That's the game.
That's
How about
it.
for you, Cuz?
I mean, the 3 goals, it's tough to really kind of focus on 3 goals. I think maybe I have to take into this. Who's the author that you're talking about?
It's Josh Bozzoni. He's a personal friend. He's the CEO of a company called BioTrust, and he's been wildly successful as an entrepreneur.
Huh.
And he just only focuses on 3 things.
Is there a chapter on laws of 3?
Yeah.
There is.
There's a section, and it's in the journaling section. There's a.
It'd be awesome if it was chapter 3.
Too much.
Chapter
3 is breakfast.
Okay. Woo.
Yeah, breakfast. Own your breakfast. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good practice because it can be, and again, you can nest things underneath those, but to know what your objective could be make all the calls I need to make for my contacts. That's your objective for the day.
Yeah.
Or it could be focus on the bigger projects that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like where I'm at right now, Spotify is redefining the music business in a way that it hasn't in a long, long time. It's the first time it's seen growth, let alone double-digit growth in 20 years as an industry. And as Spotify is just making music more ubiquitous and more personal and in everybody's pocket in a way that it hasn't been, all of a sudden you've got infinite amounts of songs right there, and it's social. All of a sudden, more artists are exploding, more shows are happening, Live Nation's doubling down, their stock is at an all-time high. I feel like the industry is really like growing again thanks to Spotify, and I feel like not enough people are utilizing Spotify for all of its power to connect to their consumers.
I'm one of them. I can't even figure out how to upgrade my Spotify account to get to premium so the commercials don't read.
That's right. At South by, I was like, yo, you were like, I don't know about this Spotify. And then I played you Rap Caviar, and you were like, okay, you know what? I'm in.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Yeah, you've got influencer status, which is great. You've only just gotten a premium Spotify account. And that's what I'm trying to say is like this space is only going to grow and bubble and double. It's already gone from a $15 billion valuation to a $20 billion valuation in the past month. And Goldman Sachs just came out with a report, and another report came out that it's probably going to be a $100 billion business in 3 to 5 years, which means it's 5 times bigger than it is right now, and it's already 5 times bigger than it was 2 years ago. So we're looking at like exponential growth on this one platform that isn't being utilized properly by brands, even just influencers. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a big opportunity there, and we want to build and help brands connect to their consumers, especially utilizing Spotify. So that's one of my kind of like big missions right now.
Are people going to pay for music in the future at all except for live shows? I mean, it's pretty much just going to be live shows, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to need to pay like for cable. Look, the music business was very greedy. When you were selling $20 CDs that cost $1 to make by the truckload, by the boatload, there was so much profit in these record business execs' pockets and in the overall kitties in the 80s and 90s that it was absurd. CDs were such a racket of profit. They were just taking old records and vinyls and just selling it by the tens of millions at huge profit returns, and it wasn't transparent. The money trickled down, wasn't fair. The industry needs to be rewritten, but yeah, they lost an opportunity. They didn't see this digital revolution coming. When Napster happened, they just tried to squash it, stomp it out, and then when Apple came out with their iTunes, it was another big opportunity for the music business, and they just didn't see it. They didn't understand that like selling these iPhones and iPads and iPods was a big opportunity, and they just basically tried to make as much money off the tracks as possible, losing sight of what the bigger picture is. And the consumers got disheartened.
Yeah.
And then piracy got rampant, and ultimately it became this thing where music got perceived as free. But music is not a free commodity, and there's more money than ever in music, and you're going to buy Spotify as soon as they pull that 6-month plug of complimentary trial off. All of a sudden, you're going to want Spotify the same way you want HBO, the same way you want cable television, the same way you might want the NFL
Netflix.
Network. Right. So I think that and then there's huge returns in 10 million, 100 million people paying $10 a month. Now we're talking about bigger revenue than there was even in the traditional record business sense, especially if what needs to happen in the music business is they need more transparency.
Yeah.
The model still needs to be broken. It shouldn't be a business based on what it was of selling records. And the power now with all of this new technology is in the artist's hands more than ever. You don't need to go through a record label. You don't need to be on MTV. You don't need to be on the radio to have a fan base that you can galvanize. And if you're dealing direct with the fans, there's a lot more revenue. There's a much bigger piece of the pie. And there's a lot more if you can be creative as marketers, as entrepreneurs, as CEOs of your own brand, or partner with people that can be your CEO while you focus on your creative vision. There is so much opportunity in the music business, and I think it's only going up. So yes, people are going to pay for music, maybe not in the traditional sense, but buy more concert tickets, buy more merch, buy more Ciroc vodka, buy more, Yeezys, buy subscribe to Spotify. You're getting played on spins. I mean, watch the YouTube video. And there's going to only be more innovation on the back of these platforms.
Where does SoundCloud fit in?
SoundCloud is interesting because there's no barrier to entry. They don't mind breaking the law, or they didn't up until this place. So you could have illegal remixes. You could have songs that aren't authorized. You could have samples. You could have mixes that aren't cleared. It was just basically like underground that got really impactful. The issue is that they have not been extremely savvy in figuring out how to turn to this kind of legitimate model. And at this point, they're desperate, and they're selling out to the labels and to the investors, and they've got heavy VC inside. And as impactful as they are, I think their impact diminishes. I wouldn't be surprised if SoundCloud doesn't last the test of time because they blew it when they had their opportunities. But I think there is a need for this kind of like underground music, right?
One thing that I've recently thought was cool on SoundCloud is, like, we were at Burning Man, and Diplo played a set at Question Mark Camp, and someone sent it to me in our group who was there with us as we were listening to it, had the fucking time of our lives.
Love it.
And
Sounds
then
awesome.
he posts that to SoundCloud, his set from whatever mixer that he had that was recording it. And then so we get to re-listen to Diplo's Question Mark set from the Burning Man that we were at. And like SoundCloud seemed like a perfect venue for that.
It is. It's just not legal. So it's like everyone's kind of hoping that it figures itself out because now there's a lot of stakeholders. All the labels are vested partners. I mean, the labels' valuations because of Spotify are so big that today it was announced like Sony Music is worth more than ever before because it's attached to all these tech companies that they're taking equity in as investors. But the problem with SoundCloud, and a lot of people want to see it win, and you're right, it is a perfect venue, but like those clearances aren't legit.
Yeah.
These songs can't really go there. Like at any point in time, some writer at some of those tracks could say, that song's a violation, I don't want that song up, and the mix is gone. Yeah. Right? And all of the traction that artist built and all of the comments around that song and all of the attention and all of the sharing and all of the glory is gone from the face of the earth like that, and illegal, and maybe could even lead to SoundCloud getting sued or the artist getting sued, God forbid. And then it's like, how does SoundCloud monetize their platform if their biggest hits are illegal.
I get it.
So it becomes a tough, slippery slope for SoundCloud, and I think they've got enough juice to barely, at one point they were almost shut down this year, and they got a nice investment, but at what cost?
Right.
I wonder if it could end up being like a MySpace type of thing where it's a cool brand that's dope, but never reaches its potential because it's just not built to win.
Yeah. Tell me about the artists a little bit, because you've gotten to get inside, the inner circle of a lot of these different artists who, we see them as artists, we see some stuff in the news, but not actually getting to know the people behind it. And that's something, that I've gotten to know with fighters and hockey players and athletes through my company. But you've been in the music space. Like, what have you learned from these artists? Like, what makes them tick? Where are their weak points? Like, what's true? What's not? Like, what is it? What is it like there?
Artists are the number one place for creativity and inspiration for me. Mm-hmm. I can talk to artists. If you want to know what's hot, go to a hot artist and ask them, because they are so on the pulse. And artists can break culture, right? They have a penchant for trying new things. They're willing to take risks. They like to be on the fringe. They want to be creative, and they've got a following behind them. So they can actually make and shift culture and break trends, and they're on the pulse, right? Collaboration is part of the key to growing your audience, and artists realize that and are constantly, connecting with other artists to create more art, and they're just like a wealth of knowledge. Like, anytime I'm hanging out with an artist, they're the ones that are telling me what's hot, what's next. How many times have I found artists because artists introduce me or tell me about things you need to know about? So it's just such an adventure. I love hanging out with artists and creative ones in that, because they can just impart so much knowledge and creativity on you. And, when I'm in the studio with Wale, he's gonna have the funniest viral video that's just so next level that you didn't know about. That's the inside joke with him and his clique, because they're constantly finding that next new hot. And a lot of times they're willing to collab and be open to that. So the artist community is that's the hot spot for finding the next new hot thing, staying on the pulse. We did a program for Sour Patch Kids called The Patch, where we housed emerging artists. Yep. We had one in Austin for a little while.
That. You had brisket on a chocolate chip cookie.
Oh, my God.
I remember that.
How you break out of the noise at South by is tough. We'll talk about that for you later. But it's so a little piece of brisket on a fresh baked chocolate cookie, if that's what's going to get you remembering the fact that we built this entire program to house emerging artists as influencers, is so worthwhile. Because emerging artists are going to tell you the trends. They're going to be from all these different cities, and they're the pulse.
Right.
And so being around artists is just it keeps you on the edge, which is where you want to be.
Where do artists fuck up? What is the self-defeating aspect that you see takes people with a lot of talent and a lot of potential, and what do they allow to defeat them?
I think a lot of times when artists relinquish too much of their own brand to somebody else because it's easier, or because they're just in it for a payout, you see them end up losing a lot of the longevity of what their brand stands for in their career. I feel like also, look, artists are crazy. I think we're all crazy, but I feel like artists have the right to embrace their crazy even more. So it becomes, it can spiral out of control, egos. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of chutzpah to go out there on the stage and shed your whole self and bare your heart and soul with your art and your music and your craft in front of thousands, tens of thousands of people. And it can happen really quick for musicians.
Right.
And it really can get in their own way sometimes of if they deserve it. I think mental toughness is a big thing that artists should be able to hone, and I think they could be coached on that. I think they need to be in charge of their brands more, or at least be willing to sign off on different components versus just letting a label or a manager just kind of run them through the gamut. I want them more present. I feel like artists should be meditating. I feel like artists should be more in tune with things, and I feel like there could be classes that help artists with their financial perspective and how to manage their scenarios better. And for a long time, a lot of artists just haven't been looked out for. That was kind of like the nature of how it is. Like, get them in, get them hot, and make the money off of that song or whatever and keep it moving. But at this day and age where it's a lot more sustainable and there's a lot less upfront money, it's about building the well and the infrastructure and the team and the revenue streams. Artists need to be empowered more, and they are empowered more. They need to be taught how to really grow. So I think there's a big opportunity for like an organization that can teach and empower artists because they don't know.
Yeah. It's also, anybody in power, particularly rock stars and musicians and DJs, they create kind of a distortion field around them where people don't act normally around them. They don't have necessarily the checks and balances. They have people looking to gain something from them constantly, and that probably causes, I've seen it in other areas too, it causes them to insulate themselves more, and like not really trust people kind of. And it's that balance between you want to follow your vision and like what you see and not allow yourself to be influenced, but you also need checks and balances to be someone like, whoa, man, that's too far. Like, bring it in. Like, where's that coming from? You doing all right? And I think you got to be wary of any kind of distortion field you can create. And it works on a micro level too. Like, you could be, the boss of a very small company, but you'll create a distortion field because you have control over other people's financial destiny to a certain degree. And so they may not give you the honest feedback that you want. And I think that's where having like that real community, and I think that's why artists probably trust the people that have grown up with them the most, but even then you got to be wary of the distortion field that can create and really start to jade you.
It's true. It's hard to get a good support system. Artists need that, right? Like you need to have a team or friends that can really keep you in tune. And it's tough. Some of this is so disproportional. These artists out of nowhere could come out of, lower class or middle class places and all of a sudden be just like the toast of the town and people can't relate to them. So I think artists really appreciate and respect the fact that I've come from this space, I see it really well, and I can help talk to them from a real perspective of how to grow and build their brand, because you're always having to reinvent yourself. At this day and age, even as an artist, artists are scared, and that's part of the reason they don't trust people. I sometimes joke there's this classic artist syndrome where they don't tell everybody everything because they want to always keep everybody a little at bay, because artists need to protect themselves the most, because in 5 years, when that song, isn't hot and relevant anymore, who cares about Trinidad James? Right?
Whitney does.
Right? I know she does. But it becomes, it's like that classic line, it's hard to be Bobby Brown, because to be Bobby then, you got to be Bobby now. It's hard to stay continually going up and up and up. And as an artist, so many people are sucking your juice, so to speak. Like being a hot artist or being around a hot artist is one of the most exciting things ever. It's like when 50 Cent was coming up and everywhere he turned, he was the hottest guy in New York. He was the hottest guy in the world. Dr. Dre put his song out. Eminem was his label head. Everybody wanted to be near him. The clubs would shatter when he would come in. But everywhere he turned, Puffy was behind him. Like in all in his video. Like if he'd go to a nightclub, Puffy would be the table next to him. He'd be at a corporate event, Puffy would be right behind him. And 50 turned around to him, and they had the same manager at the time, and was like, Puff, why are you everywhere I am? And Puffy's response, because this was like early 2000s, was, you hot, Playboy, and I need to be where the flame is. Artists are really like a hot artist. There's so much amazing things coming at them. Yeah. They almost can't focus on all of it, but it is just a lightning rod of attention, and it's just a great place to be, but it doesn't stay that way. Like people, you can be, especially in this day and age where every 6 months the bloggers and the culture heads and the tastemakers need to tell you about the next new hot thing. You could be like bubblegum and be flavored out so fast if you're not building a sustainable career. And so it's a big fear of artists, of how to reinvent themselves or how to come out with that new sound or that new flavor to stay relevant. Because that's what everybody needs to do in the pop culture or in the culture business. Is it doesn't matter what was relevant in culture. Jenkos or raverwear was hot and relevant in the late 90s, but now if you wore that stuff, it would be like laughable.
Right.
So how do you reinvent yourself with culture to stay relevant is like the biggest challenge, I think, of every artist.
Yeah. When you were younger, you said you wanted to be a millionaire by the time you were 30. How is your goal setting, and how is your understanding, and how much of a role does money play now versus how much it played then?
I was chasing at that age the fast track. You get to that place where if you don't have it, you feel like, if I get it, I'll figure everything else out. Mm-hmm. And I chased maybe the wrong thing growing up, because I just figured that was the symbol.
Marker.
That was the marker. At this stage, I've had and lost and made and continue to make fine money, but it's really about the process, right? Falling in love with doing the work. It's like a joke that a couple of my friends and I do is hard work is more fun than fun these days. And I just love doing the work, and then you feel the results. Like the money is just a byproduct, and it's the key, and it's the access, and it's the passport to do whatever you want. But what's $1 million anyway? A millionaire isn't like I could close a deal tomorrow, make $1 million, knock on wood, but it doesn't. Ultimately, that's not going to change who I am or my life. So I'm way less focused on a money outcome and way more focused on an impact.
Yeah. I think those are wise words, because I think you can get really caught up in that money race and forget the steps that you need to do that's actually going to get that sustainable. Because money will go really fast. If you're just looking for that quick hit and that score, and you're building a sandcastle, some house of cards to get you to this little financial goal, but you don't have the skills and you don't have the process to sustain it, you're probably going to lose it.
And you're constantly honing the skills, right? Like, I love to learn. That's probably one of my greatest joys right now. But it all leads to, the beautiful thing about being in a capitalist society, being in America, being in a business instead of like the two horrible words that go together, nonprofit, is like I hate those two words. It's like nonprofit. I want to work for free. I want to not make money and do work. It doesn't make sense. I love the concept for purpose so much more.
Yeah.
But it's, money will come if you're doing great work, and the only way you're going to do great work is if you do the work within.
I'm with that 100%. That's all I've always said. There's that quote from the philosopher Hermes Trismegistus, says, "As above, so below; as within, so without." Like, the more clear you get internally, the more your outer world will clear up too. And that's always when you're looking at anything that's actually going on. Instead of trying to fix absolutely everything external that's out of your control and control all of the moving pieces, control how all of those moving pieces affect you on the inside. And then as you stabilize, you can be that stabilizing force for everything else out there. It's funny how that works, but it's undeniable.
And then get laser focused on the goals. And if the goals are to make impact through sales or through revenue generating opportunities, that's wonderful. But just saying I want to be a millionaire feels like a young Jesse K. Mm-hmm. A young, less seasoned, less experienced, not millionaire Jesse K. Yeah, it's a lot different now.
It's funny. It goes back. I've said this before on the podcast, but I talked to a poker player who talked to someone who'd won the World Series. And he said, he asked him, he's like, well, when will I win the World Series? And the poker player who'd already been there and won the series told him, well, you'll win the World Series when it doesn't matter to you if you win the World Series.
Huh.
Because you're that fucking good that it's a logical conclusion to be like, yeah, I did it. I won the World Series. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't buy that. I'm not letting that one get through. That's like saying, oh, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have stress. No, the way to win the World Series is to do the fucking work to win the World Series.
But that's what he's saying, though. He's saying that you've done so much work that you're that fucking good. That, like, you'll be a millionaire when being a millionaire isn't a big deal. Like, you'll win, you'll get drafted by the Knicks when you're so good that that you're going to get drafted by the Knicks. Like, it's not going to come as a surprise. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a surprise, like, oh my God, I can't believe it, I won the World Series of Poker. If you're going to have that idea, you're not going to win. You got to be there and be like, yeah, of course I won the World Series of Poker because I'm the motherfucker.
It's right. A lot of it is mental, right? The one who wins is the one who thinks he can.
Yeah.
A lot of it, but it's also about the work. Like, in order to perform at the highest level, you see these tennis players when they're winning the world championship or the US Open or Wimbledon, they're giving it everything. They're trained at the highest level, they're performing at the optimal space, and they're still giving it every muster of courage, every ounce that they've got to get there. It's just not going to come to them because like, oh, it's no big deal. Of course I'm going to win Wimbledon. I mean, Federer makes it look easy and pretty and graceful, but he is, by the end of this thing, he doesn't have anything left. He's weeping. He's in a pile of his own sweat and crying and just can't even stand. When you look at Serena Williams as she wins her championships, it's not because she necessarily just says, oh, I'm the fucking bomb, I'm going to win.
Right.
She is, but she's
that's arrogance if she did that, But yeah, you're right. You got to fucking lay it all out there. It can't be it's not a surprise if you've done the work, is I think what I'm saying. But then when it's not only doing the work, it's then laying everything out.
You've got to go for it. And you've got to give it everything you want in order to win on the highest level.
Right.
Like, you want to it's like Tony Robbins. I just did a Tony Robbins expo. It was great as a guest of his last month in Newark, New Jersey. Talk about motivational speaker. This guy's on the final fucking level. It is a show. Like, he's 15,000 deep. 12,000 people are crying at the top of their lumps, punching themselves in the face, screaming. By the third day, he's broken them down so hard as he builds them back up. But one of the things that Tony imparts is that, like, in this day and age, if you want to get good results, do good work. But good isn't going to do it for you anymore.
Yeah.
Good in America is like, in these circles, like, you're going to be disappointed with yourself at good.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to create worlds for great or outstanding because, unfortunately, maybe a generation ago or two, good was enough, right? I'm good. Now, you don't want to be good. Good is going to barely get you, you're not getting into the league. You're not winning the World Series.
You got to be your best. You got to really be your best and do the work in every step, inside, outside, learning, be humble, listening, everything to be your fucking best.
Yeah.
Because it's been a fucking honor to take this ride with you.
Wow.
I'm so stoked that we've been able to take this journey from the drop and just looking forward to seeing where you're going, man.
Call us, text us, send us a fax, connect with us on Facebook, sign up for the newsletter. There's a newsletter. It's at nueagency.com. That's NUE Agency.com. He's the warrior poet.
Used to be.
I like to think of myself as the corporate warrior. And, oh, gosh, the warrior poet was a great brand. I think you bring that back. Like, my goodness.
It'll always live in the hearts of some.
There it is. But honestly, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. I love what you're doing. I'm so proud of everything that you're building. I've seen you grow as a person and as a man. And, to be cousins and to be blood and to be doing this our whole lives and to, just really be getting started in this journey. We're a quarter of the way there?
I'd say so.
All right. We got a long way to go. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Love you, cuz.
Love you too.
All right.